The sun had long fallen behind the jagged mountains, leaving the battlefield shrouded in shadows. Smoke curled like dark fingers over the scarred land, where ruins of once-proud villages lay half-buried in ash and stone. Cale walked carefully among the wreckage, his boots crunching against shattered tiles and twisted metal. The air was thick with the scent of burnt wood and earth, yet his senses were alert for anything alive. He had never wanted this war. Humans and Varans had always fought, a bitter cycle of vengeance stretching back generations. But Cale was a mercenary, a survivor who did what he must to live. Today, that meant scavenging the remains of a battlefield, hoping to find supplies and perhaps a trace of the lost travelers who had disappeared into the night. A sudden sound froze him, a soft, almost imperceptible cry. It came from beneath a collapsed stone wall. Cale crouched, his hand on the hilt of his sword, and listened. The cry came again, weak but unmistakable. "Hello," he called gently. "Is someone there?" His instinct urged caution, but something in her voice pulled at him. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. "I'm just trying to help." Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. I'm Lyra." But she seemed exhausted, scared, and something in Cale's calm, steady presence offered her a fragile thread of trust. "We need to move," Cale said. "The storm is coming." "I'll protect you." Shadows flickered among the ruins, and distant howls echoed like the whispers of lost souls. Cale kept a hand on his sword, alert for anything that might threaten them. "You're very brave," Cale said quietly after a while, breaking the silence. Lyra's eyes flicked toward him. "I have no choice," she murmured. "If I am caught, they will kill me." "Who will kill you?" Lyra was not only the child of a powerful ruler, but also a symbol of something much greater, a life that mattered more than the battle raging around them. Night deepened, and the storm began to howl. Rain fell in sheets, washing the battlefield in silver light, and the wind tore at Cale's cloak. Lightning illuminated Lyra's face, and he saw fear etched deep into her features. He knew he had to find shelter and fast. "There," he pointed toward a partially standing tower. "We can take refuge there." Inside the tower, the air was still and cold. Cale guided Lyra to a corner and helped her sit on a pile of rubble. She shivered violently, and he wrapped his cloak around her. "Better?" he asked. Lyra nodded, though her teeth chattered. She looked up at him, her dark eyes reflecting both gratitude and unease. Why are you helping me?" "You don't even know me." He had heard tales of the Vera rulers, beings of immense power and cruel cunning. To harbor the Emperor's daughter was to invite death. Yet he looked at her, small and fragile in the corner, and his resolve hardened. "We'll survive," he said. "One step at a time, I promise you that." There was something in the way he spoke, calm yet firm, that made her heart tremble with a strange mixture of hope and fear. For a moment she allowed herself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, she could survive this night. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, rattling the tower walls and sending echoes through the hollow space. Lyra slept fitfully, wrapped in Cale's cloak, and Cale kept watch. He thought of the humans who had fought and died here, of the Varans who would search for her, and of the fragile thread of fate that had brought them together. A soft glow began to emerge from Lyra's hand as she slept. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but Cale noticed immediately, a shimmer of light that seemed alive, pulsing with a strange rhythm. He leaned closer, wary but curious. "What is that?" he whispered. Lyra's eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly with the light. She gasped, frightened by her own power. I don't know," she said. It happens sometimes when I am scared or angry." Her eyes were wide, but there was no scream, only a quiet, fearful trust. Cale's heart pounded, his senses alive with tension. The shadows in the tower seemed to shift and move, and a cold, unnatural wind blew through the broken walls. Then, in a flash of lightning, the source of the growl appeared, a creature of shadow and flame, its eyes glowing like molten gold. Cale raised his sword, his body taut, ready for the strike. But before he could act, Lyra's glow surged, spilling over her hands and forming a shield of light around them both. The creature recoiled, screeching, and vanished into the storm outside, leaving the tower trembling but empty. Cale stared at Lyra, astonished. You did that." I think so." Cale watched the rain lash against the broken walls of the tower. Outside, the battlefield was quiet again, but only for a moment. Somewhere beyond the mountains, enemies stirred, and a war that had raged for generations would not forgive this intrusion. And yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, a fragile connection had formed between them, human and Varan, protector and the protected. It was a bond born of necessity, courage, and something more delicate, something that neither could yet name. Kale tightened his grip on his sword, his eyes scanning the storm-dark horizon. "We'll face whatever comes next," he said quietly, though neither of them knew what that would be. Together. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, a fragile hope flickered, a promise that even in the darkest of nights, survival and perhaps something more was possible. And far across the mountains, in a palace of crystal spires and whispering corridors, the Empress stared at a map, her face pale with worry. Her daughter was missing, and a human of all beings was keeping her alive. The wind howled through the broken tower, carrying the scent of rain and distant fires. Somewhere, destiny waited, ready to shape their lives forever the storm had passed, leaving the battlefield drenched in mud and silence. Rainwater pooled in the shattered streets, reflecting the gray, bruised sky above. Kale and Lyra stepped out of the broken tower carefully, eyes alert to every shadow. The wind carried a strange metallic scent, mingled with the lingering traces of the strange creature that had attacked them the night before. Lyra walked beside Kale, her steps hesitant but determined. She kept her hands hidden under the folds of her cloak, as if hiding the faint glow that had surged from her earlier. Every time she tried to summon it deliberately, the light flared and sputtered like a candle in the wind, uncontrollable and wild. She had always known she was different, but now she realized that her powers were more dangerous than she had imagined. Kale noticed her hesitation. "We need to move carefully," he said softly. "The Varens will search everywhere for you, and there are others. Creatures, mercenaries, anyone who would use your power for their own gain. You're not alone in this." Now walking beside a human who had chosen to protect her, she felt something new. Freedom, small but real, and the warmth of someone who cared not for her title or her magic, but for her as a person. They moved through the ruins for hours, avoiding main roads and villages. Kale led her to a hidden glade where the remains of an ancient shrine stood, overgrown with vines and glowing fungi that emitted a faint, magical luminescence. The place felt safe, as though the world outside could not touch it. "This will be our shelter for now," Kale said. "It's far enough from the main roads, and the magic here, it will help mask you." Do you think I'm dangerous?" She had been trained in etiquette and diplomacy, not in battle or survival. And yet, Kale's calm presence gave her courage she had never known she could feel. As the night fell, they sat by a small fire Kale had made, the warm glow casting long shadows across their faces. Lyra finally spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kale, why did you save me? Not even my own family sometimes." There was something steady and unwavering in Kale, a certainty that she had never experienced. And for reasons she could not explain, she wanted to believe him. The night deepened, and Kale kept watch as Lyra slept, the faint glow in her hands flickering in the darkness. He thought about the path ahead, the Varen forces searching for her, the rogue creatures that might attack them, and the curse that seemed to pulse from her very being. Every step would be dangerous, and yet he could not turn back. He had made a choice, and he would see it through, no matter the cost. When Lyra awoke, the first light of dawn was spilling through the trees. Birds sang cautiously in the distance, and the air smelled of wet earth and growing things. She rubbed her eyes, glancing around at the hidden glade. "You stayed up all night," she said quietly. Kale shrugged. "Someone has to, and I can't trust the forest entirely, not after last night. I don't know what I would have done without you." Perhaps there was someone in this world who would fight for her, even if he was human, even if he was considered weak by the Varens. They began to move again, leaving the glade behind, Kale guiding her through dense forests and over crumbling bridges. The landscape was wild, untouched by the war in some places, but the remnants of battle were never far away. Charred trees and broken statues stood like silent witnesses to the destruction that had swept the land. Hours into their journey, Kale noticed Lyra's pace faltering. She stopped, clutching her stomach and breathing heavily. "Are you hurt?" he asked, concern flashing in his eyes. I don't know," she admitted. "It happens sometimes. When I'm afraid or upset, the light comes and then I feel weak." Kale guided her inside and built a small fire. Lyra watched him work, marveling at his skill and resourcefulness. Despite the dangers, despite the fear, there was a steadiness in him that made her feel safe. As the fire crackled, Kale spoke quietly. "Lyra, I need you to tell me everything you know about your powers. The more I understand, the better I can help you control it." It was difficult to explain something that even she barely understood. "It comes from the Eclipse curse," she said finally. "It's a gift from I don't know who or what. It has been in my family for generations. Sometimes it feels like the power is alive inside me, wanting something I cannot control. And no one has taught you how to control it. And yet, despite it all, she had survived. You're stronger than you realize, he said firmly. And we'll find a way to control this together. I'll teach you how to survive in this world step by step. I don't want to be afraid anymore. Kale guided her through simple exercises, teaching her to focus her mind, to feel the energy within her without letting it overwhelm her. Slowly, the faint glow in her hands began to stabilize, flickering less wildly, responding to her intent. By nightfall, they were exhausted but triumphant. Lyra's hands glowed softly, warm and steady, a small victory in the midst of chaos. She looked at Kale, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. You're amazing, she whispered. I've never had anyone believe in me like this before. Neither noticed it at first, as exhaustion dulled their senses. But the shadow lingered, watching, waiting. Something or someone was following them, drawn by Lyra's power, and it would not rest until it had claimed her. Kale's instincts pricked, and he sensed the danger before he saw it. He placed a protective hand over Lyra, alert and tense. "Stay close," he whispered. "We're not alone." And somewhere in the shadows, the first of many challenges waited, ready to test the fragile trust between human and Varen, protector and the protected. The forest had grown darker as Kale and Lyra traveled further from the ruined battlefield. Shadows twisted between the trees, and the wind whispered warnings in languages neither of them understood. Even with the glow of Lyra's controlled light, the woods seemed alive, watching, waiting. Kale's senses were sharp. Every snapping twig or rustle of leaves made him pause, hand on the hilt of his sword. He had been in battles before, but this was different. He wasn't fighting for coin or survival alone. He was protecting Lyra, a girl with the power to change the fate of kingdoms. Lyra walked beside him silently, her cloak pulled tightly around her shoulders. Her hands glowed faintly as she focused on controlling her power. Each step through the mud and roots took effort, but she pressed on, determined not to slow Kale down. "I can't stop thinking about it," she said softly, breaking the tense silence. "The storm, the creature last night, and the way my power just appeared. What if I can't control it? You survived alone in a world that wanted to destroy you. That takes more courage than most." Before they could react, the figures surrounded them, closing in silently. Kale's heart sank. These were no ordinary bandits. They moved with the precision of trained soldiers, and their leader stepped forward, revealing a pale face with eyes that burned with cruel intelligence. "You've been quite elusive, princess," the figure said, his voice smooth and commanding. "But there is no hiding from those who know where to look." "You won't touch her," he said, voice low but firm. The leader's smile widened. "Oh, but I already have. You see, we've been tracking you, human. You cannot protect her forever." She was still learning, still unsteady, yet even in her fear, her power had forced them to pause. "Enough," Kale said. "Leave now and you live. Try to harm her again and you won't leave this forest alive. Soon, they'll return, and next time they won't come alone." The air inside was cool and damp, but safer than the open forest. Kale built a small fire and they sat together, the warmth easing some of their exhaustion. "You're quiet," Lyra observed, her voice soft. "What are you thinking about?" "About how to survive when the world seems to be against us." "Not anymore." They needed to reach a safe haven, a place where Lyra could learn to control her power without being hunted. Hours passed, and Kale noticed Lyra's steps slowing again. She was exhausted, her face pale, yet she refused to complain. Her determination impressed him, but he knew they needed rest. "Another break," he said, motioning to a fallen log. "You can't go on like this without energy." "You're getting stronger," Kale said finally. "Your light, it's stabilizing, you're learning. And you're already stronger than most would be in your place." As the sun began to set, Kale noticed movement in the trees again, figures slipping silently through the shadows. His heart clenched. The earlier group had not returned alone, they had allies and they were closing in. "Get ready," Kale whispered, drawing his sword. "They've found us." "I'm ready," she said. The first figure stepped into the clearing, a warrior clad in dark armor. His eyes burned with intelligence and malice, and behind him more shadows moved, silent but deadly. Kale positioned himself between Lyra and the intruders. "You cannot escape," the warrior said. "The princess belongs to the Empire. She cannot hide forever. She belongs to no one but herself, and I will not let you harm her." Together they fought, human and Varen, protector and the protected, their bond unspoken but unbreakable. Even as they defended themselves, Kale realized something important. Lyra's power was not a weapon to fear. It was a force that could protect if only she learned to master it. And she was learning faster than he could have imagined. When the last intruder fell back, retreating into the shadows, Kale exhaled, lowering his sword. Lyra stood beside him, glowing faintly, exhausted but alive. "You did it," he said, pride in his voice. "You held your ground. I just helped you believe it." The night fell heavy and quiet, but Kale and Lyra stayed alert. The forest whispered secrets, and the shadows seemed to watch them with eyes unseen. Somewhere beyond the trees, the Empire stirred, plotting, searching, waiting. But in that moment, human and Varen, protector and the protected, were united by trust, courage, and the fragile hope that together, they could survive whatever came next. And as Lyra's glow pulsed softly in the darkness, Kale realized that the bond they shared was more powerful than any sword, any magic, or any army. It was a connection forged in survival, in understanding, and in the quiet recognition that some fates were meant to be shared. The ruins of the ancient city stretched before Kale and Lyra like a forgotten kingdom. Broken towers reached toward the sky, their spires jagged and silent, and vines crept along crumbling walls as if nature itself had decided to reclaim the place. The air was heavy with magic, a faint hum vibrating beneath their feet, and Kale could feel the weight of history pressing down on them. Lyra walked beside him, her cloak damp from the morning mist. Her hands glowed faintly, the light steady but quiet. She had grown stronger since the forest battles, learning to channel her power without fear. But Kale knew her mastery was still fragile. One misstep, one surge of emotion, and the energy could spiral out of control. "We should rest here," Kale said, motioning to a collapsed temple that seemed partially intact. "It's hidden, and the magic here will help keep you grounded. Yet here I feel lighter." Kale tended to a fire while Lyra studied the glowing inscriptions on the walls. The symbols pulsed faintly under her touch, resonating with the light that lingered in her hands. She traced them carefully, curiosity and awe mingling in her gaze. "This place, it feels like it remembers," Lyra whispered, "like it has seen everything that has happened here." Magic remembers what people forget. That's why it's important to respect it and learn from it. Each success brought a flicker of pride to her eyes. "You're learning faster than I expected," Kale said, his voice warm. "But remember, it's not just about control. It's about trust, trust in yourself and trust in me." Kale had protected her from countless dangers, taught her to survive, and now he was helping her master the very power that had made her a target. She felt gratitude, yes, but also something more, a quiet, steady admiration that stirred something deep in her heart. Before they could continue, a sudden tremor shook the temple. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the faint glow on the walls flickered. Lyra's eyes widened in alarm. "What now?" she whispered. Kale drew his sword, moving toward the source of the disturbance. Shadows shifted in the corners of the room, and from them emerged figures clad in dark armor, their eyes gleaming with malice. "They found us," Kale muttered. "Stay close." The intruders approached cautiously, as if wary of her power, yet their intent was clear. They had come to capture the Vera princess, or worse, to exploit her abilities. The first figure lunged, but Lyra's shield flared, sending him staggering back. Kale moved with precision, disarming and redirecting attacks, keeping the intruders at bay. Together, they formed a rhythm, human skill, and magical power intertwined. But then, one of the intruders struck Lyra from the side. The shock sent a surge of energy through her, and the glow in her hands erupted uncontrollably. Light spilled over the temple like molten gold, sweeping across walls and pillars, shaking the ground. Kale's eyes widened as he realized the danger. They could be crushed or burned if she could not regain control. "Lyra, focus, breathe," Kale shouted, moving to shield her with his body. She struggled, fear and guilt flooding her. I can't, I'm hurting them." "You can do this. You controlled it." They had faced enemies, survived the forest, and now they were mastering a power that could shape the fate of kingdoms. And through it all, their bond had deepened, built on trust, courage, and shared struggle. "Kale," Lyra said softly, breaking the silence, I don't know what I would do without you." "Always." Outside, the ruins whispered in the wind, carrying the promise of both danger and destiny. Kale and Lyra settled near the fire, weary but vigilant. The world beyond the ruins was vast and uncertain, yet in this moment they had each other, and that was enough. But peace was fragile. As they slept, a faint shimmer passed over the temple walls, unnoticed. Somewhere beyond the ruins, a figure watched, cloaked in shadow, with knowledge of the eclipse curse and intent to claim it. The danger was far from over, and the choices they would face tomorrow could change everything. Kale awoke first, the fire's glow illuminating Lyra's peaceful face. She had finally succumbed to sleep, her hands still glowing faintly in rhythm with the energy that surrounded her. He felt a surge of protectiveness, stronger than ever. This was not just survival, it was duty, honor, and something deeper that had grown quietly in his heart. Hours passed. The first light of dawn crept through cracks in the ruined walls, and Kale stirred Lyra gently. "Wake up," he whispered. "We need to move before they find us again. Dreams can't touch us here." The eclipse curse pulsed in Lyra, quiet but alive, and Kale knew that each step would test them, not just in battle but in trust, courage, and understanding. As they moved through a corridor of broken statues, Lyra paused, sensing something. "Kale, I feel someone or something watching us. No matter what comes, we face it together." The corridor trembled under the energy between them. Kale held his sword firmly, ready to defend her, ready to fight, not for himself, but for the girl who had become his purpose, his reason to survive. The figure smiled faintly. "We will see if the bond between protector and protected can withstand what comes next." "I promise." Outside, the ruins whispered, and the magic stirred. Destiny was waiting, and Kale and Lyra would meet it together, no matter the cost. The sky above the ruined city burned with a strange light, a swirl of crimson and gold that reflected off shattered towers and broken streets. The air pulsed with power, the remnants of centuries-old magic awakening as if sensing the coming confrontation. Kale and Lyra stood together on a crumbling bridge, overlooking the vast ruins below. Lyra's hands glowed steadily now, brighter than ever before, her control absolute. The eclipse curse pulsed within her, no longer wild or dangerous, but harmonized with her will. She breathed deeply, centering herself. Kale watched her closely, his sword ready, but his eyes were filled with pride and awe. "You're ready," he said softly. "Whatever comes, you can face it." From the shadows below, a figure emerged, a tall warrior clad in black armor that shimmered like liquid night. His eyes glowed with malice and intelligence, and in his hand, a staff pulsed with dark energy, resonating with the eclipse curse in Lyra. "So," the figure said, his voice smooth and sharp, "the human has taught the princess to control her power. How touching. But no bond can save her from destiny. It will shape the world in my image. Whatever happens, we face it together." "Kale, it's too strong," Lyra shouted, struggling to hold the light steady. "You can do it," Kale shouted back. "Trust yourself, trust your power." It reached toward the dark warrior, surrounding him, pressing against the darkness that had threatened to consume her. The warrior's eyes widened in shock. "Impossible, she cannot control it." The dark magic collided with her light, and the force of it threw the warrior back, sending him crashing into the ruins below. The bridge trembled violently, but Kale and Lyra held firm, their connection, trust, courage, and unity keeping them balanced. When the light dimmed, the figure was gone, banished into shadows from which he would not return. The air was still, the ruins silent, and for the first time in days, Kale and Lyra allowed themselves a moment to breathe. "You did it," Kale said softly, lowering his sword. "You mastered it. And I couldn't have protected you if you hadn't trusted me. That's the truth." Dangerous, uncertain. Days passed as they navigated the ruins, ensuring no lingering threats remained. They discovered ancient texts and inscriptions, relics of the past, learning secrets about the eclipse curse and the balance of magic in the world. Lyra's mastery grew, and Kale's respect and admiration deepened with every passing day. One evening, as they rested atop a high tower overlooking the city, Lyra spoke quietly. "Kale, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't found me that night? That our paths crossed for a reason. There was fear, yes, but also a quiet certainty, a shared understanding that whatever came next, they would face it together." As they descended from the tower, the Empress appeared, accompanied by a small escort of trusted advisors. She looked at Kale with eyes filled with gratitude and respect. "You've kept her safe," the Empress said softly, "and for that I will be forever grateful. The human has done what many could not. Mother, he has been my guide, my protector, my friend. Without him, I could not have mastered my power." "Together," she agreed. The ruins grew quiet as night fell, stars twinkling above like distant, watchful eyes. The war was not entirely over, but a victory had been won. Lyra had mastered her power, the threat had been defeated, and the bond between human and Varen had solidified into something unbreakable. As they walked through the quiet streets, Kale realized that their journey had changed them both. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and emerged stronger, wiser, and closer than ever. The world outside would continue to test them, but they had discovered a truth that no enemy or curse could take away. Unity and trust could overcome even the darkest of shadows. Lyra paused at the edge of the city, looking out at the horizon. "Kale, do you think we'll ever be safe?" "Always." Somewhere in the distance, the stars shimmered and the ruins whispered their approval. The human who had protected the enemy's daughter had become a hero, not for fame or reward, but for honor, courage, and the love that had quietly grown between them. The legend had begun, and it would live forever.